Tamal had been on Redstone 6 for just over 6 months, and already he was bored out of his mind. The small mining outpost, far from Earth's trade routes, was quiet, too quiet for someone like him. Every day felt the same. Wake up, check the oxygen filters, walk the dusty path between the storage units and the generator shack. Then eat tasteless food with the same 5 people. Life of a hero, he often said with a laugh. The only thing unusual about Redstone 6 was its landscape. It was red and rocky, with tall stone pillars scattered across the hills, shaped almost like they were once buildings. Locals said that long ago an alien race called the Elyari lived there, but they were gone now. No one knew how or why. Tamal never believed in old alien stories. He believed in machines, fuel, in keeping things running. That changed one boring afternoon. He and his friend Bren were repairing a faulty power line near a ridge when Tamal's foot slipped. He fell hard, and the ground gave way beneath him. Dust exploded around him, and suddenly he wasn't on the surface anymore. He had fallen into a hidden chamber. Tamal, you okay? Bren shouted from above. Tamal groaned, coughing out red dust. Yeah, but you're not going to believe what I found. As his eyes adjusted to the dim light, he saw a large stone statue sitting in the center of the room. It was the shape of a tall alien woman, seated on a broken throne. Her eyes were closed, and her face was calm. Her hands rested on her knees. Vines and dust covered her from head to toe. It looked real, not like a carving, not like art. Too real. When Bren helped him back up, they both stared at the figure. In silence. She's beautiful, Bren whispered. Creepy, but beautiful. I think it's just a statue, Tamal said. A really fancy one. They reported the discovery, but Command didn't care. It wasn't part of their mining zone, and their orders were to stay focused. So, the statue was left alone. But Tamal couldn't stop thinking about it. A week later, Tamal returned alone. Curiosity had taken hold. He stepped carefully into the chamber. The statue hadn't moved, of course, but something about her expression made him feel watched. Who were you? He asked out loud, his voice echoing. He looked around, half laughing. You're just a rock. Then, feeling silly and daring, he leaned forward and kissed the statue gently on the lips. It was meant to be a joke, something he'd laugh about later with Bren. But the moment his lips touched the cold stone, the entire room shook. Dust fell. From the ceiling, the lights in his helmet flickered. And then, the statue opened its eyes. They were glowing, not with light, but with awareness. Tamal stumbled back in shock, tripping over a rock. The statue stood slowly, her body cracked as if waking from a deep sleep. She looked down at him and said in a soft but powerful voice, "You have doomed your species." Ah! Tamal froze. His brain couldn't understand what he had just heard. What? He whispered. You touched the sentinel, she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed no kindness. You broke the seal. The test has begun. He backed away slowly. Wait, I didn't mean anything. I didn't know. The alien woman stepped off her stone seat. With each step, her skin seemed to come alive. What once looked like stone was now flesh silver blue and smooth, like polished metal under skin. I was placed here 1,000 Earth years ago, she said, to wait, to watch, and to judge. The one who wakes me will be the one to answer for your kind. Tamal tried to speak, but his mouth was dry. I didn't wake you on purpose. It was just a joke. A joke, she repeated. The Elyari had no word for such things. That is how we ended. The lights in the chamber brightened on their own. Ancient machines embedded in the walls began to glow. Something deep beneath. The planet hummed to life. Now what? Tamal asked, his voice shaking. The woman looked up at the ceiling. The signal has already gone out. The Ark will come. Earth will be judged. No, please. There has to be a way to stop it.
Oh.
For the first time, there was a flicker of emotion, sadness, confusion. Perhaps she said, perhaps not. Then she sat back on the throne. You have 3 days. Show me your kind deserves to live. or prepare for your end. Tomel ran back to the base, heart pounding. Bren looked up as he entered, sweating and wide-eyed. You okay? You look like you saw a ghost? Tomel grabbed his shoulder. I kissed that statue, he whispered, and now we're in serious trouble. Bren stared at Tomel like he had lost his mind. You what? Tomel pulled off his helmet and dropped into a chair, still gasping. I kissed the statue. As a joke, it opened its eyes, stood up, and told me I doomed Earth. Bren blinked. You need rest, man. I'm serious, Tomel said. Eyes wide. She spoke. Moved. Everything. She said I broke some kind of seal and now a weapon is coming for Earth. Bren looked around the control room. The lights flickered once. A small shake rattled the floor under them. The screens showed strange data spikes, power surges deep under the base. Okay. Let's say this is real, Bren said slowly. Ain't. Do we need to talk to her? She said we have 3 days. Tomel and Bren returned to the underground chamber. The woman, no longer fully stoned, sat silently on the throne. Her silver-blue skin reflected the soft glow from the ancient walls. She didn't look angry. She looked like someone waiting. Tomel stepped forward. Please, help us understand. Her eyes opened again, calm and focused. I am Vela. My task was to watch, test, and decide. Decide what? Bren asked. Your future, Vela said. The Elyari left this world long ago. We were powerful, proud, and full of knowledge. Right. But we lacked understanding. So we created Sentinels, guardians of judgment, to watch new species, to test them if needed. I was left here to observe yours. Tomel frowned. You've been sitting? Here for 1,000 years? Alone? Yes, in silence, till the sign came. Bren crossed his arms. You mean the kiss? Yes, she said. In our culture, that action was sacred. It's only shared between bonded protectors. To use it without meaning was a deep insult. Tomel stepped back, ashamed. It was just a joke. I didn't know. I believe you, Vela said. My system does not care for intent. It reacts to the action. Now the Ark has been alerted. It will arrive to judge your world. What is the Ark? Tomel asked. A machine, she said softly. A weapon of memory. It carries knowledge. And fire? It has ended other worlds. Tomel's chest tightened. Can we stop it? Vela tilted her head slightly. There is one way. Bren and Tomel leaned forward. You must show me something the Elyari lost long ago, she said. Something we never understood. Heart, courage, sacrifice. Tomel looked confused. How do we show that? I have 3 days, she replied. What you do with them is your choice. They returned to the surface, minds spinning. The sky over Redstone 6 seemed darker now. The air felt heavier, back in the command center. They called a private meeting with Laura, the base supervisor. You believe an alien statue talked to you? She asked, raising an eyebrow. She's not a statue, Tomel said. She's alive. She's real. And she's serious. Bren nodded. Something's happening under the planet. We checked the scans. There's movement energy spikes, like old systems turning on. Laura leaned back, thinking. Even if I believe you, what do you want me to do? Help us connect with Earth, warn them, Tomel said. And maybe send a science team down to speak with her. We need minds smarter than ours, Laura sighed. Our long-range comms went offline an hour ago. No signal is leaving this planet. Bren's eyes widened. She's blocking us. Tomel stood up. We need to change her mind. If she believes in us, maybe she can stop the Ark. That night, Tomel sat alone in the chamber with Vela. She watched him silently, like a teacher observing a student. He cleared his throat. You said your people lacked heart. What does that mean? She answered softly. We chose perfection. Logic over love. Strength over kindness. Control over freedom. We removed what we called weakness, and then we fell. Tomel frowned. Is that why you're testing us? To see if we're like you? Yes, she said. To see if you are different. We're already walking the same path. He nodded slowly. We're not perfect. But we care. We laugh. We cry. We fight for people we love. Isn't that worth something? Vela looked at him for a long time. Then she said, I hope so. The next morning, things got worse. Redstone 6's power grid started failing in small bursts. Lights flickered. Machines slowed down. A deep hum pulsed from underground like something very old was waking up. Laura called for a full lockdown. Tommel and Bren begged her to wait to listen to Vela, but she refused. She's a threat. Laura said, if she's waking weapons, we need to shut her down now. She armed the base's small security team and gave orders to place charges around the alien chamber. Tommel stood in their way. Please, he begged. She gave us a chance. Don't ruin it. She's tricking you, Laura snapped. You're thinking with emotion. I'm thinking about safety. Tommel watched helplessly as the soldiers moved out. Back in the chamber, Vela stood tall. She looked at the approaching guards without fear. You choose violence, she said. A mistake many have made before you. One of the guards raised his weapon. Suddenly the walls glowed bright, and all the weapons melted into useless metal in their hands. The soldiers screamed and ran. Vela looked at Tommel. I will not harm them. But I will not be destroyed, Tommel stepped forward. They're afraid, that's all. We make mistakes, but we learn. As Tommel left the chamber once more, he looked up at the red sky. Something shimmered above the clouds. A distant, slow-moving shadow. The Ark had begun to appear, and time was running out. The shadow in the sky grew larger with every hour, though it was still far above the clouds. Arms crossed, her face pale. That thing's not from Earth, she whispered. Tommel stood beside her. It's the Ark. She turned to him sharply. And you're still saying we should talk to her? Tommel nodded. Yes, she said, we still have time. We need to act fast. Laura shook her head. We don't know what that ship can do. For all we know, it could destroy Earth in a single shot. That's why we need her help, Tommel said. She's connected to it. She might be the only one who can stop it. Back underground, Vela stood silently in the glowing chamber. The walls pulsed softly with energy, like the heartbeat of a sleeping creature. Tommel approached her again. You said we need to prove something, he said. Vela opened her eyes. You must face danger for the sake of others. You must risk what you value most. And you must not do it for reward. But because it is right, Tommel sighed. That's not easy to measure. Vela nodded. It never is. That's why it is rare. Bren entered the chamber behind him, holding a data pad. We found something strange, he said. He placed the pad on the stone floor. And a 3D image appeared, an old El Yari beacon, buried deep beneath the planet, just under the mountain range. It was glowing now. It's sending signals, Bren said. That's how the Ark was called. It's still active. Vela looked at the map. That beacon connects me to the Ark. It was designed to wake me and guide the judgment. Get! We shut it down? Tommel asked. Vela looked at him. Perhaps. But it is protected by El Yari machines. Ancient defenses. No one who goes there will be safe. Tommel looked at Bren. We have to try. Bren gave a small nod. We'll need a team. The next day, Tommel, Bren, and 2 others, Juno, and Mirren, prepared for the journey. The beacon was buried beneath jagged hills and sharp cliffs. The area was unstable, and no one had entered it for years. As they set off, Laura called them through. The comes. You better know what you're doing, she said, because if you fail, we can't protect Earth. We know the risk, Tommel replied. Vela watched silently as they left. She didn't speak, but her expression was unreadable. Sadness, part hope. The path to the beacon was rough. Dust storms blew hard against their suits. Sharp rocks cut into their boots. But after hours of climbing and crawling, they found the entrance. A hidden door. Half buried in the red dirt, Tommel brushed off the dust and placed his hand on a small, glowing panel. The door opened with a soft hiss. Inside it was dark and cold. The walls were made of smooth black metal, still humming with energy after 1,000 years. They moved carefully down the corridor. Lights came on as they walked, reacting to their presence. At the center of the chamber stood the beacon, a tall crystal tower. Floating above a circular platform, It pulsed with a strange rhythm, sending waves of light upward. "This is it," Bren said. Tomel stepped forward. "Let's shut it down." As soon as they touched the control panel, alarms rang out. The floor shook. Walls opened, and strange machines crawled out, metal creatures with sharp limbs and glowing eyes. "Elyari Guardians, run," Juno shouted. They spread out, trying to avoid the machines. Bren fired a signal jammer. It slowed one creature, but not the others. Tomel dodged a metal claw and reached the base of the beacon. "There's a power core under the platform," he yelled. "I'll cover you," Juno shouted. She drew her energy cutter and charged at one of the machines. It turned toward her, and she led it away from the platform. "Now, Tomel." Tomel opened a hatch and found the glowing heart of the beacon. It was hot. It's humming louder than anything he had ever heard. He reached in and pulled out the central crystal. The light dimmed instantly. The machines froze, and one by one they collapsed. Silence returned to the chamber, but Juno didn't return. Tomel ran through the corridor, calling her name. He found her near the exit, lying against the wall. Knelt beside her. "You did more than that. You saved Earth." She looked up. "Tell Vela. Tell her this is what humans do." Tomel held her hand as her eyes slowly closed. The team returned to the base. Carrying Juno's body, the beacon was silent. The Ark, now fully visible in the sky, had stopped moving. Everyone looked up, waiting. Then, in the glowing chamber, Vela stood tall. Tomel and the others entered quietly. "She gave her life," Tomel said, "so we could stop the signal." "I saw it," Vela said. "I felt it through the connection." "In the room, you showed courage. You risked all for others. You acted not for glory, but for the good of many." She looked at Tomel. "You have passed the first part of the test." Tomel blinked. "First part." Vela nodded. "The Ark still watches. It waits for the Sentinel's final word." She stepped down from the throne, and I have not yet spoken. The chamber was silent as Vela stepped away from the throne. Her glowing eyes scanned the faces around her, Tomel, Bryn, Laura, and the others who had come to witness the moment. Tomel stood tall, though his body was tired from the journey. His hands were scratched. His heart still carried the weight of Juno's sacrifice. "You said the Ark waits for your final word?" he said to Vela. "Are we not ready yet?" Vela's voice was calm but firm. "You have shown sacrifice. That is one piece. But you must also understand why the test exists. You must know what happened to us. Only then can you choose your path." She reached out her hand. "Come, let me show you." Tomel hesitated, then stepped forward and placed his hand in hers. In a blink, the world disappeared. He found himself standing in the middle of a vast white space. There was no floor, no sky, just light. Then images began to form around him. He saw the Elyari Empire at its peak cities, made of crystal and silver. Towers stretching to the clouds, ships flying through stars with ease. Their people were tall, graceful, and calm. But then he saw something else. The Elyari. Standing in silence, as smaller civilizations were erased from the stars, they called it cleansing, removing what they believed was unworthy, uncontrolled, or dangerous. "We were powerful." Vela's voice echoed around him. "Out. But we were proud. We thought emotion made others weak. We believed perfection was more important than kindness." Tomel watched a scene of Elyari ships firing on a planet. Filled with life, he heard no screams, only silence. The Elyari didn't shout or celebrate. They simply watched, cold and still. "Was this your war?" Tomel asked. Vela's voice grew softer. "It wasn't war. It was judgment. Without heart, we chose order over mercy." He saw an Elyari scientist standing before a council, begging for change, asking for compassion. The council turned their backs on her. That scientist, Tomel whispered. "Was that you?" "Yes," Vela said. "I asked them to wait, to learn from others. They refused, so I became the Sentinel. I asked to be placed here, to watch, to hope." The final image was of Vela alone, walking into the stasis chamber beneath Redstone 6. The door closed, and darkness fell. Then the light vanished. Tomel gasped. As he returned to the real world, falling to one knee, Bren rushed forward. "You okay?" Tomel nodded slowly. "I saw it. I saw her world fall." That night, Tomel sat outside the base, staring up at the arc in the sky. It no longer moved. It hovered above them like a giant eye, waiting for Vela's decision. Bren sat beside him. "What did she show you?" Tomel told him everything. Bren listened quietly, then said, "So, they destroyed others because they didn't understand them." Tomel nodded. "They called emotion a weakness. They erased anyone who didn't fit their idea of perfection. And now she wants to see if we're any different." Tomel looked at the stars. "We're not perfect, but we care. We make mistakes, yes, but we also forgive, learn, and change. That should mean something." The next morning, the base received a surprise. A small ship arrived from the nearest colony, sent after Redstone 6's suddenly returned. Laura's message had finally gone through. Among the newcomers was a girl named Nima, no older than 12, traveling with her father. They had come to check on her older brother, Miran, who had joined Tomel's team. When Vela saw the child, she became still. She knelt in front of Nima and spoke softly. "What is your name, Nima?" the girl said, smiling. "Are you the statue?" Vela's face showed a strange softness. "Yes, I was." Nima tilted her head. "You don't look scary. You look kind." Everyone froze, watching Vela. Reached out and gently touched the girl's cheek. "Your people still raise children with open hearts? That is rare." She stood up and looked at Tomel. "You must come with me now." "Where?" he asked. "To the Ark." Within an hour, Tomel, Bryn, and Vela were aboard a small El Yari shuttle hidden deep under the outpost. It had activated the moment the beacon was shut down. They flew high into the sky, leaving the red dust of Redstone 6 behind. The Ark grew larger as they approached, like a floating mountain made of silver and shadow as they docked. Illo looked at Tomel. "Once inside, we cannot return until judgment is made." Tomel took a deep breath. "I understand." Inside the Ark, everything was silent. The ship's walls glowed with soft light. Holograms floated in the images of planets, species, timelines, histories. It was like walking through a museum of the galaxy then. They reached the heart chamber, a circular room, with a floating core in the center. Glowing blue. "This is the voice of the Ark," Vela said. "It speaks only to the Sentinel." She stepped forward and placed her hand on the core. A voice echoed through the chamber. "Do you judge this species worthy?" Vela looked at Tomel. He didn't speak, just nodded. She turned back to the core. "I request one final vision." The room changed now. It showed Earth cities, forests, oceans. People laughing, helping, crying, fighting. It showed war, yes, but also healing. Showed mistakes, but also redemption. And then it showed Tomel kissing the statue. Everything that followed. The voice asked again, "Do you judge this species worthy?" Vela closed her eyes. Then she opened them and said clearly, "Not perfect, but alive. Not proud, but brave. Yes, I judge them worthy." The Ark pulsed with light. The air grew warmer. And then, slowly, the ship began to power down. The Great Judgment was over. Earth was safe. The Ark hovered silently above Redstone 6, larger than any ship humanity had ever seen. Its silver surface reflected the dull red light of the planet, and its strange shape, part machine, part unknown design, cast a shadow miles wide. Back on the ground, everyone stared at the sky. Children stopped playing. Workers left their posts. Even Laura, the tough base commander, had no words. The air felt heavier. Everyone could feel it. Judgment was close. Inside the Ark, Vela stood beside Tomel in the heart chamber. The core in front of them still glowed, but now it pulsed slowly, like it was waiting. I gave my word, Vela said. But the Ark still watches. Tommel frowned. I thought you made the decision. Vela looked at him with calm eyes. I did, but the Ark holds memory. It holds power. It must be convinced. Tommel stepped forward, then let me speak. Meanwhile, back at the Redstone base, Bren and Laura were trying to prepare for the worst. Even though the beacon was shut down, and Vela had traveled to the Ark, they didn't know what the ship would do next. What if she fails? Laura asked. Bren didn't answer right away. He was staring at a small holoscreen where an image of Juno had been saved the team. Remember who gave her life to stop the El Yari beacon? She won't fail, Bren finally said. Not after everything we've shown her. Just then, the base lights flickered. A low hum came from deep in the ground. Something was happening. Up above, in the Ark, the heart chamber changed. A large sphere of light appeared. Inside it, holograms of Earth began to float scenes of life, nature, history, war, peace, laughter, and sorrow. Everything then came a voice clear and powerful, but not angry, not human. State your reason, the Ark said.
I should.
Your kind survive. Tommel took a deep breath. I'm not a leader, he began. I'm not a scientist or a hero. I'm just a technician who made a dumb joke. He looked at Vela and smiled faintly. But maybe that's what makes us special. We laugh when things are scary. We cry when we fail. We fight for our families, even when we're weak. Images in the sphere shifted now, showing Tommel and Bren exploring the chamber, Juno's sacrifice, children playing on Earth, and moments of kindness between strangers. We make mistakes, Tommel continued. A lot of them, but we learn, we change, and when it matters, we choose to help, not destroy. He looked at the core. If that's not enough, then maybe we never had a chance. The chamber went silent. The Ark did not respond immediately. Vela looked at Tommel. You spoke truly. That matters. Suddenly alarms began to sound across the ship. Red lights lit up the walls. Tommel turned to Vela. What's happening? The Ark? It's been triggered again, but not by me. A screen lit up behind them, showing a small craft leaving a hangar bay on Redstone-6. Laura, she had taken one of the human shuttles and was flying straight toward the Ark, back at the base. Bren shouted into the comms. Laura, what are you doing? Is her. The voice came through, calm but firm. I'm stopping this madness. What madness? You all trust her to easily, Laura said. That ship could still attack Earth. I'm going to destroy its core before it decides anything. Bren slammed his hand on the console. She already chose peace. Don't ruin it. But Laura didn't reply. Inside the Ark, warning lights grew. Stronger. Vela looked worried for the first time. She's entered the outer ring, she said. If she reaches the control core and damages it, the Ark will think Earth is attacking. Tommel's heart raced. Can we stop her? There's a security tunnel between chambers, Vela said. You'll need to run. Tommel didn't hesitate. He ran. The corridor was long and full of curves, with doors that opened only when Vela's signal passed through. She guided him from behind, using her hand to move energy across the walls. As Tommel ran, he saw the systems inside the ship responding. Defense turrets started to wake. Lights blinked faster. She's almost there, Vela warned. Tommel pushed his legs harder. He reached the chamber just as Laura stepped onto the platform holding the ship's secondary core. She raised a device-on EMP pulse bomb. Laura, stop, Tommel shouted. She turned, surprised. You don't know what this thing could do, she said. We have to shut it down. She already made the choice, Tommel yelled. The Ark was ending the test. If you use that bomb, it'll think we broke the deal. Laura looked at the device. Then at Tommel, he stepped forward slowly. Please don't do this. We've already lost too much. Laura's hand trembled. For a moment, the tension hung in the air like fire. Then she lowered the device. You better be right, she whispered. Just then, the room was filled with white light. Back in the heart chamber, Vela stood calmly as the Ark spoke once more. Decision. Confirmed. Judgment passed. Threat withdrawn. Tomel and Laura returned to the chamber together. The ship grew quiet again. The alarms faded. The Ark began to rise higher into the sky. Tomel looked at Vela. That's it. She nodded. It will leave your system now. Earth is free. Tomel looked out the window at the stars. What happens to you? Vela turned to him with a faint smile. That depends. Do you still see me as a statue? Tomel laughed softly. No, not anymore. As the Ark slowly disappeared into space, Redstone 6 returned to silence, but nothing would ever be the same. 2 days had passed since the Ark left. Redstone 6 was quiet now. The skies were clear, and the strange pressure in the air was gone. But the people on the base didn't celebrate. Not yet. Too much had happened. They had seen a living statue wake up. They had faced an ancient judgment. They had watched one of their own, Juno, give her life to save others, and they had learned that Earth was nearly destroyed, not by weapons, but by a mistake made in a moment of carelessness. Tomel stood near the cliff edge, looking at the place where he had first fallen into the hidden chamber. The rocks were still there, still broken, but everything had changed. Behind him, Vela walked slowly across the red dust. You still carry the weight of it, she said. Tomel nodded. I was the one who kissed the statue. It started everything. Vela didn't scold him. Her voice was gentle. But you also chose to fix it. That is more important. He looked at her. Will the Ark come back one day? Vela shook her head. Not for your people. The judgment is complete. It will move on now. What other places? Tomel sighed in relief. But then she added, unless Earth forgets what it has learned. Later. That day, the base held a small gathering in the dining hall. There were no speeches. No big celebration. Just people sitting together, eating warm food, sharing quiet stories. On one wall, someone had placed a photo of Juno. She was smiling in the picture, holding her helmet under one arm. Someone had written underneath it in simple letters, she stood for us. Bren raised a cup. To Juno. Everyone raised their cups. To Juno. Tomel looked at the faces around the table, all different ages, backgrounds, and skills. Yet when the moment came, they had stood. Together, that mattered. The next morning, a ship from Earth finally arrived. News of the Ark had reached human command. The signal delay had ended now that the Elyari systems were deactivated. A group of diplomats, scientists, and officers stepped out onto the surface of Redstone 6. Eager for answers, Laura met them first, then introduced Vela to the lead envoy. A calm and curious man named Director Elrin. You're the Sentinel? Elrin asked. I was, Vela replied. Elrin nodded. And you chose not to destroy us. I gave you a test, she said. Your people passed. Elrin turned to Tomel. They told me what you did. You risked everything. You saved Earth. Tomel shook his head. It wasn't just me. It was all of us. The director smiled. That may be true. But history will remember your name. Tomel didn't smile back. I don't want to be remembered for a kiss. Later that evening, Vela walked through the base for the first time without guards or scanners watching her. People had grown used to her now. Some even greeted her with small nods or shy smiles. She stopped near the observation deck and looked. Out at the star's dot, Tomel joined her a moment later. Will you stay? He asked. Vela paused before answering. I have nowhere else to go. You could return to your people, Tomel offered. They are gone, she said softly. Even if I found survivors, I would not belong with them anymore. Tomel nodded. Then stay with us. Vela looked at him. Your world is loud. It's messy, filled with mistakes. He laughed. Yes, but also full of life. She smiled the next day. Director Elrin asked Vela to visit Earth. He said the people deserved to see hurt to learn from her. He wanted to show that the Elyari weren't just myths anymore. At first, she refused. But after some thought, she agreed. I will go, she said. But only for a short time. Tomel and Bryn helped her board the transport ship. Before the doors closed, Vela looked at Tomel. You showed me something my people lost long ago. Tomel tilted his head. What's that? Wonder, she said. You turned a mistake into something meaningful. She placed her hand on his chest, over his heart. "Protect this," she whispered. Then she stepped aboard as the ship lifted off. Tomel stood watching until it disappeared into the clouds. Bren walked up beside him. "Think she'll come back?" Tomel shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe she's already given us what we needed." Bren smiled. "To think it all started with a dumb kiss." Tomel laughed finally. "The worst decision I ever made. And the best thing that ever happened." In the weeks that followed, things slowly returned to normal on Redstone-6. The base continued its mining work. New supplies arrived. Communication with Earth became stable again. But there was something different. In the air now, people were kinder, more patient. They listened more and judged less. And every now and then, someone would walk past the old chamber where the alien statue once sat and stop for a moment of silence, not in fear, but in respect. One night, Tomel sat alone at the edge of the cliff again, looked up at the stars, thinking not about war, not about mistakes, but about everything that had been saved. He closed his eyes and whispered into the wind, "Thank you, Vela." And in the distance, maybe in his heart, maybe somewhere beyond the stars, he thought he heard her whisper back, "You stood for your kind." That was enough. Months had passed since the Ark departed from Redstone-6. The base was no longer just a mining outpost. Had become a symbol of hope and change. Tomel walked through the halls with a new sense of purpose. The people here were different now. They talked more openly. They helped each other. They no longer took life for granted. "Change comes slowly," Bren said beside him one afternoon. "But it's real." Tomel nodded. "We almost lost everything, but we didn't. And now, maybe we're ready for something better." Back on Earth, news of Vela's visit spread like wildfire. The idea that the Elyari once thought to be legends were real, and that their judgment was merciful, inspired many. Vela became a symbol of peace between worlds. She shared her knowledge, her stories of the past, and lessons learned. She spoke of the dangers of pride and the power of compassion. One day, a message arrived from Earth. It was an invitation for Tomel to visit the capital city. The leaders wanted to hear from the man who had changed the course of history. Tomel wasn't sure what to expect. But when he arrived, he found a crowd waiting, not just politicians, but people from all walks of life. Children held signs that said, "Thank you." Tomel heroes come in many forms, keep caring. Tomel stepped up to the podium. He looked out at the crowd and took a deep breath. "I'm not a hero," he said softly. "I'm just someone who made a mistake and tried to fix it." The crowd smiled and applauded, but what I learned is this: every one of us can make a difference. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to care. Back on Redstone-6, Vela stood beside Tomel during a small ceremony. She looked different now, not a statue, but fully alive. The people there saw her as a friend, not a mystery. Tomel asked, "What will you do now?" Vela smiled. "I will continue to watch, to learn, to protect." "Will you stay here?" "For a time," she said. "This place, it feels like home." As the stars shone above, Tomel felt a quiet peace. The universe was vast and full of unknown dangers, but he believed humanity had taken a step forward, a step toward hope. At night, Tomel often thought back to the moment he kissed the statue, how a joke had become the turning point for all mankind. He smiled, knowing that even the smallest actions could change the future, and somewhere far away, perhaps across the stars, Vela watched and hoped, because the story was only just beginning.